We are back, baby. That's right. Round 1 Australian Grand Prix here in 2026. New regulations finally coming home to roost. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of drama over the course of the offseason. There has been some moments in preseason testing, but it is all coming down to this. It is round 1 in Australia, down under, as the Formula 1 grid gets away for the first time in 2026 with now 11 teams on the grid. It's gonna be a fun one, but it all starts here and now. Our first edition of our 2026 pre-weekend predictions. Made that up on the spot. Let's go ahead, without further ado, jump on into this thing. We are going to be kicking off with our exact same predictions from last season. So if you saw any of our predictions videos from last year, you'll know exactly what's ahead. We have our biggest positive surprises, our biggest disappointment, our qualifying top 3. For sprint weekends, we'll also do a sprint winner, but that is not this weekend. Have our race podium, and then we'll round things out, as always, with one crazy prediction. But before we do get started with our biggest positive surprise, it is back once again. We are doing another community predictions challenge over the course of the entire season. Over in the Discord, we're going to be putting our predictions to the test for these exact same ones we're going to make here today. And we're going to see who, by the time the season is over, is the has the most wheel knowledge. I think is the easiest way to say that. So you can head to the link down below in the description, join the Discord. There's an F1 weekend predictions channel, and then every week leading up to the Grand Prix weekend, I'll put out a call for these exact predictions. You can drop your predictions there, and we'll see who gets the most points, not only for the weekend, but also for the entire season. Not to toot my own horn, but I am currently the reigning champion of the community. So if you feel like you have more wheel knowledge than me, head over to the Discord, join in, and it'll be a lot of fun, I promise. There's a lot of smack talk, and there is a lot of fun to be had, so we hope to see you there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get our first prediction on the board here in 2026. We're kicking things off with our biggest positive surprise for Australia. And I would be remiss as myself, as your potentially resident Haas fan, to not put a Haas driver in my pick for biggest positive surprise. I'm going with Ollie Behrman for my first official biggest positive surprise pick of the season. That's right, we are going full on Haas hopium here, as we saw some very beneficial and very good things out of the Haas team in preseason testing, with some pretty good reliability, some decent pace. I think we're in for a bit of a treat, especially considering the unknowns when it comes to these new engine regulations, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. I really have high hopes for Ollie Behrman this year. He finished his rookie campaign very well, and I'm hoping he can carry that momentum forward here into Australia. Hopefully he'll have enough mileage under his belt, because Haas and that outfit put him through his paces in terms of the Barcelona shakedown and the 2 weeks of preseason testing. So my official prediction is I believe that Ollie Behrman will finish in the top 6 here in the opening round of the 2026 season. And so basically this is a win-win for me, which is either it comes true and I get double points, or not, and I'll know exactly where we are for the season. I don't know how that's a win-win, but the hopium is running thick. We can definitely say that. Let's roll things right along for our first pick for biggest disappointment here in Australia. And I am going with Ferrari, actually. There has been a lot of goodwill built up by Ferrari over the course of preseason stuff. Obviously, their 2 weeks of preseason testing yielded pretty decent results. We saw some really good things from Ferrari, culminating in Charles Leclerc setting the fastest time on the final day of the final week of preseason testing in Bahrain. Will that translate over into the actual Grand Prix season? We have no idea. We have seen in the past Ferrari have been known to enjoy a good glory run, especially at, in a good practice session and preseason testing. They ran about 8/10 faster than, I believe it was Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris. It was one of the McLarens on that final day of preseason testing, and it definitely made a lot of headlines. We have seen them do this in the past. Will it translate? I don't think so. I think they will not necessarily be too far off the pace, but at the same time, I just feel like after all the goodwill they built up with their fans, and I truly believe that Ferrari fans may not be more excited for a season than potentially since 2022, where Charles Leclerc had a very good start to his 2022 season. So this is kind of one of those moments where if you'll look back at the end of the season and go, man, Ferrari really set themselves up for a big fall. I will be choosing pessimism before optimism. Then they'll have to show me something before I really think that they've truly found something. I think this is going to be a season of question marks that will slowly be unveiled week to week. And so for this one, I think Ferrari will potentially under-deliver. It's one of those things that they could very much prove me wrong, but at the same time, I've been duped by Ferrari too many times, especially last season. And so for the first round, I'm sort of hedging my bets here, and I'm going with Ferrari to disappoint in the first round in Australia. Let's go ahead and move on now to qualifying, which, if you believe the words of some Esteban Ocon and some other mumblings of drivers, may be just as important as it has been the last couple of seasons, with many drivers reporting that it is very difficult to pass. Obviously, that is still yet to be seen. Australia in itself is a pretty difficult track to overtake around itself, so I think qualifying is going to be extremely important, and I think it's going to be a very fun session to follow, especially added on to the fact that obviously we're going into a new regulation set. These cars are brand new. Over the course of preseason testing, we saw major gaps in terms of pace. Of course, all preseason testing, you don't take any major takeaways from preseason testing times, but at the same time, it really looked like some teams had some pretty good pace and others were really struggling out there. So it's going to be very fun to follow in terms of qualifying this season. It really may come down to who can qualify the best and translate that over to the race on Sunday. And so let's go ahead and kick things off with our first qualifying prediction in P3. I'm going with Oscar Piastri. I'm going with Oscar in this one. Home race for him. Obviously trying to wash out the poor taste of the way the 2025 season ended. I think this is going to be a case of that McLaren still being relatively quick, potentially not as quick as other people, but at the same time, they will have the Mercedes engine. The Mercedes engine is rumored to be the best on the grid. We've seen pretty good, standing of that so far. And so I think this is going to be an instance of Oscar Piastri being there for the taking, and I think he'll bring it home in P3 on a Saturday this weekend. As we move on now to P2, I'm going with Max Verstappen. This is definitely a case of, it definitely seems like Max has figured something out when it comes to driving that Red Bull to try and maximize the energy deployment over the course of a lap. Australia is pretty fast and flowing, and so I think energy usage and conservation is going to be very key. And so it's another one of those things also that Max just always seems to be able to maximize the car underneath him. And so I just refuse to believe he won't be there until we see it semi-consistently. So sort of similar to my Ferrari disappointment prediction in that I don't know if Ferrari can truly put it together until they show me. I don't truly believe that Max won't be in the top 3 in qualifying until he shows me. And so this is a statement pick for me, and I think Max is definitely going to want to come out and put a good showing here in round 1 here in 2026. As we move on now, pole position. This one, I think we're leaning into the hype on this one. We're leaning into it. It is going to be George Russell for me taking pole position. George has shown proclivities to having a decent qualifying underneath him. But if the Mercedes lives up to the hype that it's been getting, there was a lot of talk about how much Mercedes was sandbagging in the preseason testing. They still were consistently putting down really good pace, but at the same time, it's all for naught until you go out there, turn everything up to 11 and really give it a go. If the Mercedes is as good as a lot of teams seem to be hyping it up to be, I think this should be a George Russell pole every single day of the week. But there we have it. My top 3 in qualifying on Saturday, the first qualifying session of the season. We have an Oscar Piastri P3, a Max Verstappen P2, and a George Russell win. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to our race podium. When the checkered flag falls for the first time here in the new season, we will have a podium to celebrate. It's going to be a podium with a lot of answers, but in my opinion, I think it could still participate with a lot of questions as well. Let's go ahead, kick things off with P3 in my race podium, because boy, who knows what's going to happen on Sunday. If we believe that it all goes right, I think we'll start with P3 Lando Norris, the reigning World Drivers Champion, who came away from his battle with Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri last season with his first World Championship to his name. I think he'll begin this season with another podium for himself, this time only in P3, but at the same time, I think it will be a very good result for him. And I think it'll be a very interesting thing to follow his season. I think McLaren firmly find themselves in that battle, I believe, if all the rumors are true, in that battle for seconds in terms of pace. And so I think this definitely is giving the feeling like McLaren will step up, utilize that Mercedes engine and their race pace to take home a podium, but time will tell in the long run. As we move on now to P2 on the podium, and I'm going with the homeboy, Oscar Piastri, giving McLaren a double podium down under in Australia, making up for last season where Oscar Piastri had a moment in the adverse weather conditions. Obviously had a lot of good pace last season, but ultimately was not to be. And I think he makes up for it this season. The new regulations coming good for him. Hopefully the weather is decent and we can truly see what these cars have to offer. But Oscar coming home P2 is certainly where I would love to see him start. As we move on now to the winner of the 2026 Australian Grand Prix, in my opinion, is George Russell. This is definitely a case of if you can get the start that George would hopefully get, assuming no start procedure shenanigans get in the way. This definitely feels like a season where if you can get cleanly into turn one, barring any major strategy issues over the course of the race, track position will play a big part in this. And I think George Russell, especially if you kind of extrapolate the race pace exhibited by the Mercedes over the course of preseason testing, the signs are pointing that it could be a very, very good package. And so if he's able to get that clear air, is able to take advantage of that engine and that package underneath him, I think this is a setting up for a George Russell win to kick off 2026. But I would love to know your thoughts on what you think is going to happen, because I think we could be in for a very exciting race. Last but not least, let's go ahead and wrap up our first predictions video with our one crazy prediction. And I think this is going to be a good omen for the unexpected nature of this season, at least the one that I hope that we get, because I think these are the times and things that really spice up a season and give us something to look out for over the course of a race. My official first one crazy prediction is a bit pessimistic for some, but I think optimistic for the sport overall. My official prediction is that we'll see at least 5 drivers DNF due to mechanical issues. Obviously, the big talking point going into the season is the new engine regulations, putting a lot more emphasis on the battery, but at the same time, there is a lot of more complex things going on with the new engine regulations, the new engine providers, as well as just general reliability issues in the first season of a new regulation. And so I think if we can get 5 DNFs from mechanical issues on this grid, which is not too out of the question. You have Aston Martin, who have really struggled with engine and power unit reliability. There are teams like Audi and Cadillac, which has also had issues potentially staying out for long stints. There's not out of the question that even potentially all the way up to the front of the grid, if given the wrong moment, wrong time, who knows. But I think if we get this, I think it'll really put everyone on notice that this season is far from normal, and I think the reliability that we've seen over the previous era could potentially be gone for, at minimum, at least a season. So keep you on your toes, that's for sure. But guys, there we have it. Our first predictions are done and over with. What do you think is going to happen this weekend? Let me know in Discord. Join our predictions championship, as well as down in the comment section below. I would love to see what you guys think is going to happen. We'll be back when it's all said and done to talk about what we had seen over the course of the entire weekend, and obviously talk about things that are leaving us wanting more as they head to China next time out. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you, and leave a like on the video because it really helps me out. And if you haven't already, join our little community. The season is just getting started, so it is a perfect time to hop on board. We'd love to have you. But guys, I hope you are ready for this weekend just as much as I am. And until then, I'm so excited. I'm getting my words jumbled. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.